Welcome to the Normalizing Average podcast. Join us as we dive into the stories behind the people who have overcome setbacks to achieve success, celebrating the average moments on the path to extraordinary results. Let's go.
That's good. Leaving it out. Okay. Hey guys, we are here, Normalizing Average podcast. We're in the studio and in Revelstoke, British Columbia. We have with us a very exciting guest. She's a local hero, global phenomenon, I would say. Okay. Katie is a comedian, director, screenwriter, professional leisure athlete, and marketing professional. Her unique brand of comedy is part informed by the time she's spent working in outdoor adventure industries with a background in stand-up comedy and improv. Her character-driven creative skills have ranged from award-winning film Dream Job, coach, and influencer, and her specialty is pulling the funny out of people. Put her in any environment, especially when she's out of her element, and we guarantee that it will get outrageous and hilarious in no time. Katie Burrell, sometimes funny, always hot. If you have not seen, heard of her, been following her already, we'll get all of her details at the end of the show. And yeah, you're in for a regular daily treat with your content.
Is sometimes funny, always hot a good tagline, or is it
the best?
Because I worry sometimes that it's like too much.
No.
But I was introduced at a summit this week, and I was like presenting to all these like middle-aged. I mean, we're getting to be middle-aged at this point, but they're like 10 years older than us. Like, so I was presenting to our peers, and and the person that was introducing me said, "Sometimes funny, always hot," and I was like, "Oh, that's not gonna land in this crowd," and they all like kind of like, like laughter that's like, it's like the equivalent of a golf clap.
Yeah.
That's like very much what it was, and I was like, I need to rebrand for like the professional conference crowds, like the Gen Z millennial crowd gets the sometimes funny, always hot, but like it did not land with the Boondocks anyway.
I thought it was so strong. This could be the title of this show.
Sometimes funny, always
like
hot.
Sometimes funny, always hot.
Always hot. Yeah. It's just like, it's like delusional enough that people are like, this person might be a sociopath. Like, I'm gonna follow what they're up to. Like,
we had a good laugh about it yesterday when we saw it on the website. We're like, that is actually pure genius.
Yeah,
it is. So don't give up on it.
I love it. So in a nutshell, you're a marketing professional and comedian.
Sure.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes, that was a question. So I don't know. I feel more and more every day like it's like interesting, like how you identify with your work. Like I feel more and more every day like I'm moving away from being a marketing professional. Mm-hmm. But then it's like when I actually like zoom out, just because of like what I'm doing on a daily basis. Yeah. But then I'm like, when I zoom out, I'm like, no, all you're doing is marketing. Like it's marketing 101. Mm-hmm. But there's no selling attached to it in the way that there was when I used to do like traditional marketing. When I worked in like corporate Vancouver, or when I worked for Micah Heli Skiing, or when I was building brands like full time, I was like, oh, what is the product? What's the sell? What's the A to B? What's the funnel? What's the CTA? Like all that kind of stuff it's been so liberating in the last 2 years, like letting go of that stuff and finding like actually people are engaged more so than they are when you are following like traditional marketing stuff, because they don't feel like they're being sold to. They don't feel like you're trying to get something from them, that you're creating something for them, mm-hmm. not to get something from them. Mm-hmm. And so when I like zoom out and look at it, I'm like, all I am at my core is like a marketing function, but I don't feel as much of a sellout, mm-hmm. in a sense as I did when I was like being paid a salary to like literally just move things from A to B.
Yeah. Sell a product or service or whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like being a comedian, in a sense, like I'm not doing stand-up anymore, or I'm not doing stand-up right now, I should say. I really miss it, and I'd love to get back into it at some point when I have the time and when I'm in a city or town that allows for it, and a way that Revelstoke doesn't really, unless you're producing your own festival, which I have done, and we can talk about that. Which is like tangent. Kind of the beauty of Revelstoke sometimes is you like want something and you're like, well, it doesn't exist. Like I'll just create it.
Yeah. We've called it like a petri dish before.
Totally.
Let's test it out in Revy. See how it
goes. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can get comfortable in that space though too. So yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well,
But-
tell us. So how did you get? Let's hear your story.
Okay.
If you want to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how you got to where you are now, and a little bit about your background.
Like, how far back we thinking?
Even just like early 20s, or what got you to Revelstoke,
Sure.
and then also like the
Or
schooling that you kind of went through, and
Totally.
Yeah. This
So-
journey into this profession.
Like every millennial, I have a bachelor degree from a university that I'm not using. I have a degree in political science from McGill. McGill was in
poli-sci too.
great. Look at us now, like just a couple of bureaucrats. Yeah, the fantastic thing about McGill was just like Montreal has like similarities to Revelstoke in the sense that like you can just like go and be so creative in that city and like make stuff kind of out of nothing, and there's like always people that are like down for it or think like that, and so I started doing stand up while I was living in Montreal, primarily because I had a crush on a guy that did stand up and felt like that was the only way I would get his attention, and he recently commented on one of my Instagram posts.
Is he still doing stand up?
Full
Is he
circle.
still in the game?
He's not.
Okay.
I am funnier than he is. So, and I like showed it to one of my best girlfriends that went to university with, and she was just like, "Can you imagine like if you had been able to tell yourself like 12 years from now or 13 years from now, you'll be like, look at this clown commenting on my, you know what I mean? He's not a clown. I love him, but look at like just feeling like hot shit when I literally would like schedule my days around like whether or not I could bump into him like at certain places on campus, like. So anyway, started doing stand up in Montreal, and then moved to Revelstoke after that to ski. Did the classic like we'll be here for 1 year. Did the season. Went down to Vancouver. Started working in commercial production in Vancouver. Always knew I wanted to work in film and TV. That was always the goal. Still is. Did some time working down, like I was a production assistant, I was an executive assistant for a producer, and then moved back and kind of did that dance for a bit where I was like in and out of here and like kind of trying to take production style jobs like out of here and then coming back here and started my own thing here, like, and just kind of experimented with a lot of stuff. Like I did this creative project at like age 24 or 25 called the Quarter Life Crisis Project, where I like
That's when we met.
we met, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna try everything.
Yeah.
Because I think I have potentially, I don't want to use it lightly, but I have like potentially undiagnosed, like, I don't want to say ADHD, but it's like I'm not on any stimulants. Like there's no coffee in my system. There's no like, there's nothing. I'm just like, I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try this. I hit a menu at a restaurant. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, how much does it cost to get the whole goddamn menu? Like I just need everything. I want to try it all. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, the hell am I gonna do with my life? My dad was like, your biggest problem is you can't choose. You like everything. You find the joy in everything. I'm like, this is so exciting. I'm like, blah, blah. So especially in your 20s where you're just like, yeah, relentlessly energetic. Anyway, so I was like trying all this different stuff, but I think in a way I was also kind of running away from what I knew I truly wanted to do, which was perform and create and entertain. And I found it in certain ways. I found elements of entertainment when I was in copywriting, right? And then it's like, okay, there's your like pragmatic job that's like you're a copywriter. Like you can like tell people at like cocktail parties that you're a copywriter and no one like asks you any further questions. Like now I'm like, anyone asks me about my work, I'm like, oh fuck, how, like we're gonna be here for half an hour. Like, do you know what I mean? Like so I was like trying to fit myself into something that I was like not gonna fit into in a way. And I did that until I was like 31. Like I did that for a solid 10 years of just wanting to perform, wanting to create, wanting to entertain, wanting to act, wanting to direct, and finding myself like building brands or like taking marketing jobs or like working full time in marketing and doing stand up in the evenings. Like, always trying to have like one foot in pragmatism and then one foot to play, and like it was like a hobby that I liked, like doing theater. It was like a hobby that I liked, like doing the radio shows. You know what I mean? Like it was never like, oh, you could like build a career out of this. And I think like social media has actually like facilitated a lot of careers that we didn't know could exist. So yeah, so I worked in Revelstoke. My first year of self-employment was 2014. We refer to it now as the income tax crisis of 2014, where I did not realize that you have to actually pay the government if you make money. So that was fun. I was like thinking I was just killing it. Like I was in like New York for a month, like eating oysters, drinking white wine, like writing copy, and then it like came around to April and they were like, yeah, all that money that you thought you had, like none of that was yours. I was like, cool. By the way, like, if I give you guys this money, can you just, like, paint some lines on the highway? Like, every year at tax season, I'm like, can we just get some fucking lines on these goddamn roads? Like, I'm out here hemorrhaging money, and no one in your organization could just make sure I can drive at night? Anyway. So
you think my portion at least covers.
Can we allocate
10
just
miles.
getting from the trailer park I live in to downtown? Like, please, for the love of God. So that was 2014. I think that scared me that year, and then I was like, okay, you don't have what it takes. Like, you got to get a corporate job. So I did the like corporate marketing, legal marketing, building companies, like doing brand work with like more established companies like Solomon. I kind of like let go of the like entrepreneurial stuff for a while. Like it was interesting though, in all my interviews for all the corporate jobs I had, I always would like reference like Stoke FM or like Kapow or like the things I had done in Revelstoke, like brand building wise. Like super grassroots stuff. Like that's what came up in my interviews in these like corporate settings, which I just found like interesting. And I would just like fluff with language, and they'd be like these big CEOs, big wigs would be like, have you ever had an example where you had to like make a decision where the CEO was not present and you had to make a decision for them? And I'm like, yeah, oh for sure. You just
all
like,
the time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. May I tell you more about the CEOs I was working with? Maybe not. Maybe that's another conversation. But
do you think it's because those projects were just the most interesting to you, or the funnest?
They were, and it was kind of like what we were saying. Like Revelstoke was like, it's like a petri dish. Like you can just explore, and it's kind of like it's easy. Back then anyway, it was like cheap to live here. It was kind of easy to live here. You were always surrounded by a community that you knew. You felt supported. You could like test stuff out on them. Like when we ran the first comedy fest here, for example, Scott and I were just calling people. You just gotta come. You just gotta trust us. Okay, fine. I'll throw you $20. I'll come out for the night. Fine.
Yeah.
And then they have a great night, and it turns into a 5-year, 6-year operation, right? Yeah. So it's like, I think there was that, and then I think there was also just like, I think like I just chase what I like. I'm becoming more. I became more and more cognizant of it as this kind of story progressed, but of the 20s decade or whatever. It was like there were days where I was like in legal marketing, like in my office, like next to Maureen, like just being like, yeah, Maureen, like how's your day? You know, like, and Maureen's like pissed because this lawyer hasn't gotten back to about this, and she's, and I'm like, oh my god, I hear ya. You know, and I'm like, there's no windows, there's like literally no light, like, and you're just like, I went and got my eyes tested, and the guy testing my eyes was like, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. I'm like, am I just that bored? Like, I literally can't look at anymore. Like, I was like this, come on, Katie, just look at the goddamn screen. And I was like, ah. Like, and kind of as I got older, I was like, yeah, I can't force myself to do. I'm gonna have to become a housewife. Like, I can't force myself to do things that I don't want to do. Like, how am I gonna make money? Do you know what I mean? Like, anyway, so I got a job offer to leave legal marketing, come back to Revelstoke, and be the marketing director for Micah Helly skiing. And that felt like, okay, well, at least I'm like, you know, I'm more interested in, I think there was at one point, I was like maybe thinking like law school would be like a good fallback plan for me. Like, well, I could argue for a living, like, but you have to do paperwork as well as argue. Okay, never mind. Like, do you know what I mean? Like a lot of paperwork.
Didn't you want to be a diplomat at one point?
For sure.
Is
That was
still-
probably during the quarter life crisis period. Like, also, that's not off the table
Take
yet.
this degree, take this poli-sci degree and put it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
get
like, what do you
those
have to
lines
do?
freaking
So I'm
painted.
24, and I went to
I want a
university,
license plate.
and I know about foreign policies. So, because I did like an entry level foreign policy class,
Yeah.
like now, when do I get my license plate? And my Mercedes and my driver? Like, when does that happen? Anyway, so the MICA job was great because I could kind of have like a bit more of room to kind of start exploring my own production work.
Mhm.
It was like a full-time job, but I found it less draining
Yeah.
than working in the city doing corporate kind of marketing. So in the evenings when I was doing corporate marketing, I would go to stand-up, and that would kind of cook me. That was like my life. Like 5 days a week I'm at a comedy club, and then 5 days a week I'm in the office, and then like you book your weekends like 6 months in advance when you live in the city. It's really crazy. Whereas here I kind of had a bit more space, and I started like playing, and I met Colleen Gensman, who is now a 4-year collaborator, 4 or 5 year collaborator, and we started like identifying things in the ski industry and in the outdoor industry that we just felt like were lacking, and we met on a hiking trip, and we just like talked for like 12 hours, like hiking. And when we got out of that trip, we decided to make something and just see if we could take like my skill set and her skill set as a DP and editor, and my skill set as a writer and like actor, and see what we could do. And we made our first piece in 2018 called Influencer. Trash. Don't go watch it. Whatever you do, please, for the love of God. It's amazing. No, it was just like we had so much to learn, and she had never done narrative before. I had never done narrative on film before. I was like writing stand-up bits that I thought would just like translate to screen. Like I'd never done screenwriting. I was like, this is funny. Like if I said this at a party, people would laugh. Like you just chuck it in the bit. Like when I describe it to someone, they're like, that's funny. I'm like, put it on the. She's like, okay, so we need like a full different approach here. So we made that. That was financed by StoryHive, which is an incredible financing body in British Columbia that gets like so many people's careers started. Actually, like. I think we got $10,000 to put that together, which we thought was so much money.
Yep.
We were like losing our minds. We were like, oh my God, we're retiring. Like we just got $10,000.
Let's go get boats.
Seriously, we're getting
Champagne.
Yeah. My children are going to Harvard. Like get out of here. We are private school and caviar, like out of the way. So now I'm like, I literally cannot take a breath for $10,000. I'm like. Production is stupid. How you're just like the money's like this. It's like every time money comes in, it's like you get hit by a bus and then it's gone.
No, it's gone.
It's a hit and run every time. That's money. That's money in production. It's just a hit and run. So we made Influencer, and we were like, yeah, I think both like kind of deeply triggered by our inadequacies in that period. We were like, oh fuck, we're like not that good, and we thought we were like way better than we are. And so but it was also like, but this is the most alive we've ever felt. Like we want to get better at this. This is awesome.
It seemed like it was received well though.
I mean, yeah, it was, which is funny. I think there were a few people where they're like, we just loved how it was just kind of like all over the place, like kind of vignette style. Like some of the feedback that you got where you're just like, yeah, we didn't do that on purpose.
It's not a compliment.
We'll take it. Like, you know.
Well, so this is interesting because there's a couple things that I feel like you've given to the community that I look at them as like gifts of laughter, like the comedy show.
Legendary.
And I feel like Influencer, because that I think for us as a community, or at least for me, because you start with Stoke FM, Scott's radio station. It's like we were. Like I knew you. We did the comedy shows, and it was just like there was no local comedian that I can think of before you. There wasn't a comedy show. Maybe they'd bring like the guys, you know, and they'd perform at the Regent, like at the bar.
For sure, the Snowden
Nobody's
tour.
connected to that at all.
For sure.
Whereas I really feel, at least in the people who would come to the comedy show, was like everybody,
Totally,
like, of all ages, and
the
it
comedy
was
fest
so
was
great.
amazing. Like,
yeah.
and I can remember like hiring like you know, proper comedians to come from the city, like Ivan Decker,
Yeah,
who's like
he was-
on tour with Rick Mercer and Dave Merhesh right now, like
Yeah.
all over Canada, and like,
Yeah.
and people were just like blown away by him. But
Yeah.
then like I came out and I was like, so Cooper's is more expensive than Southside, and people were like on their fucking feet. I'm like, okay. It's
She's
like,
talking about us.
like it was
exactly about us.
I
Yeah.
just like literally just like off the dome did 20 minutes of just like
Local humor.
and after the show, Ivan was like, you literally could have just like pointed at people and they were just like, we're dying, we're laughing. Like, no one had ever like brought comedy to Revelstoke like exactly how Revelstoke needed it, kind of.
Yeah.
And like, yes, of course you're gonna laugh at a brilliant comedian like Kyle Bottom or Ivan Decker, those early comedians that came to that festival, but it was like I literally was doing like really basic jokes about the grocery store, and people were like,
I still remember it, and
It
how
was
you were like,
yeah, you were our comedian.
yeah,
it's so
Yeah,
funny.
it was
That's
so
really cool
good.
to think about.
Well, I feel like it made us feel like a community too.
Aw.
But it was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, everybody in that entire
feeling
audience,
this.
unless
Yeah.
they had come in for the weekend,
Yeah.
was like, yes, that resonates
I
with
understand.
me so
What year
much.
was the first one in? 2014. 2013?
yeah, I actually think it was
I have to look it
2014.
up. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then influencer too. It's like I think they go hand in hand because that was your progression
For sure.
that we as
Yeah.
a community were following, and we're like, I want to see more of what Katie's doing, and
Right.
it's like she's on the Story Hive thing. Let's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then
loved it. And she's
and
such
then
a great
and then it was Dream
character.
Job.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And then Dream Job was like, yeah, well, Dream Job felt to Colleen and I like an accident, quite frankly.
How's that? Tell us about
Like
that.
I think after Influencer, we were both like, fuck, this is really hard, and like we don't really know what we're doing, and we kind of thought we did. And it kind of like shows you your holes almost more so, or your gaps, like whatever they're called, blind spots. And so I went to UCLA for a semester, and I did a semester of screenwriting down in LA. And I like met a lot of people in the industry in LA, and I was like, oh, holy shit, like it's even crazier than I could have imagined, like putting on a comedy festival in Revelstoke or doing a radio show here. Like, let's say I work in entertainment in Revelstoke, but if you work in entertainment in LA, do you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of like, holy hell.
You're
And
working in the stock market or in finance in New York.
on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, Colleen got another $50,000 from Story Hive on a pitch she had done about this concept. I think it was like Office with a View kind of a thing. And it was about the women in the ski industry. And she was like, her skill set is documentary filmmaking. Like, Colleen is like a documentary filmmaker through and through. And she's incredible at it. She's like a great storyteller. She asks the right questions. She digs in. And she told me this, and she was like, but I want to bring you on as the director. And I was like, right. Well, I would see it differently. Like, what if we were to take like documentary but like make it funny? And we were like, well, it's not a mockumentary. It's a comedy document. It's a documentary with a comedian in it, playing a character in a sense. Anyway, we talked for like hours and hours about what it actually was, and then we made it. It almost like killed us both again. Like, I was working full time at Micah. I had a surgery. The surgery recovery didn't go that well. I didn't tell anyone about the surgery I was recovering from. Colleen had to reschedule the entire shoot because of my recovery. It was just like a super cold winter. Like, all of the shoots were like demanding in their own ways. We had like miscommunications with the different women we were featuring. Like, again, we just learned so much. And then there was all these crazy deadlines for Story Hive. Like, it's like it keeps you on the same. And when we got it done, we just kind of looked at each other like, again, how has this project? How does every project like kill you in a way? Like, truly. And so that you're so like drained by these things by the time that they're like ready to show anyone. You like put them out like this. And then, but everyone else has no concept of what's like emotionally attached to them for you. And they're like, holy hell, this is amazing. And like, or this looks fun, or oh my God, when is this out? I gotta see this. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And Dream Job, I was just telling this story the other day at this conference, but it was like it went from like me having a full-time job and Colleen having like a nervous breakdown to me like having to quit my job, Colleen being like, people like this, like all the women that featured in it were like blown away. They all got nominated for like Athlete of the Year awards at the Powder Awards. It got Dream Job got nominated for Best Movie, like up against like all the heavy hitters.
Well, it was just such a breath of fresh air, I think, for the industry.
I guess
like for the ski and action sports industry to do something light,
totally
comedy,
right?
Also relatable, but like it's still, I guess it legit.
Still like, blows me away.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like 2 years out of it, being like, oh yeah, like Dream Job, like oh yeah, we were just like a couple, like it was just like a moment of genius. I'm still like, yo, what? Like, do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. Well, even I've been in the like snowboard industry for so long, or was in it for so long, and I'm so bored of watching snowboard videos.
Right.
Like a lot of them, but you know, and ski videos because I'm like, okay, all right, it's another one of those. Okay, got it. This is a real film.
Yeah.
This film. This is the bio film. This is the epic film.
Totally.
It's like.
The shot of the face where they look down, then they look up into the camera.
Light some stuff on fire. You're cool. We totally get it. Cool lifestyle.
Yeah.
Fun. You shot a thing.
It's great. Yeah.
Which is awesome and it's so much work, and I don't want to bring that down. But
but I think that there was a period of time where people were like, this is an institution in this industry, and they had to they were like so attached to it. But I really do feel like social media changed the game. Like. Content creation has changed the game. Like professional athletes, like the way that they used to show up, like they can't show up the same way anymore. Like in their career. Like unfortunately, like there was a period of time where like athletes were really fucking mad about it and they were bitter. They're like, oh, like you gotta be on Instagram, and they were like pissed. And now they're like, yeah, like okay, like not only is this kid so like. Burke Rude, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He just won he's in the Olympics. He also has like the most hilarious TikTok. I like follow him on TikTok. I'm like, this guy is so funny. Burke Rude, I don't know. Anyway, so it's like you have to do, and I'm pretty sure he just does that because he's like Gen Z and it's like second nature to them. You know what I mean? Like, meanwhile, like the 45-year-old pro skiers are like trying to talk into their phone and they're like,
just going to physio, just like for my busted up knees.
Totally. Yeah. But yeah, Dream Job just kind of like. Blew us away, and then we went on tour with it. And
did you get that energy back? You know, that feeling of exhaustion that you get after it. Did you find that again when you started touring, or was
for sure? For me, I did. I don't know. I don't want to tell Colleen's story too much because we had two very different experiences on that tour. But like without telling her, maybe you guys could have her on the podcast someday. But without giving her story away, like or telling a story that isn't mine, like. I was like energized because I started being able to like I was doing stand up all over the world in advance of the screening of the film. Then I'm watching I get jazzed by an audience. Like my parents used to tease me like, oh, we're both here, Katie, like you have an audience. Like what's the dinner time entertainment tonight? You know what I mean? Like and when I used to work at like the Gothics, like at heli skiing, I'd be like, excuse me, what could I, instead of doing dishes, could I do like a 3-hour like dinner theater with the other miscellaneous staff in the lodge? And they'd be like,
get got some stuff prepared.
Okay. And we have to go to the dishes, and I was like,
would they let you ever?
I would do them anyway.
Like I go on my own personal
time. A number of times I was like wheeled into that dining room on top of the piano by one of the guides in like a full costume, smoking a fake cigarette and drinking a bottle of Veuve because I'd like put it on the mark. I'd be like, I think if you called head office and said I need a bottle of Veuve for this performance, they'd like green light it. And the lodge manager would just be like, okay. Like, I'm not going to argue with this 23-year-old. Like, literally what?
Yeah.
You know, when you're just, like, so convinced when you're 23 of things. Anyway, so I was very energized by that experience for sure. And then I was like, I gotta quit my job. Like, I gotta quit my job. Because this is what I gotta do. I gotta do more of this. And you don't even really know what this is. You're like, I just got this feeling of, like, making people feel good, I think, is what you could distill it down to, like, mostly, you know? Like, when I say things on stage or make things on screen or do things in some sort of way that people can take in and it makes them feel good, I'm like, that's my purpose, I think. make them laugh, make them feel like whatever it is. Like that's the like most distilled kind of way to look at it. Even like today we launched hats, which this is like we're 5 years or 2 years ahead of this story, but we launched hats that say leisure athlete on them because it's a bit I've been doing for the last like year. And I was like, the hats, they were gonna go out, the cost of the hat, and then how much they cost to ship, and then how much like when we crunched all these numbers, I was like, oh, these hats gotta be like $45, and I was like, I can't put out $45 hats, like come on. I'm like, well, I mean, blame Putin, right? But I was like, I can't put out $45 hats because this might not make people feel good. And the leisure athlete bit is to make people feel good, feel seen, feel included, feel a part of community. And then all of a sudden you're charging $45. I was like, no. I'm like, what's the lowest we can go? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you bring it down to a place where you're like, okay, well that number isn't going to make anyone feel bad. I don't think. I hope not, right? Because that's like, that's still what I'm about. Like, it's still what I want to be about is like, okay, yeah, we got to make money. We got to live our lives. We got to pay a team, blah, blah, blah. But we also want to, like, we're in the business of making people, we're in the business of like, making someone's day. You know what I mean? Like, we're not dentists. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so we're entertainers. Like, we gotta make them. They come to like feel good.
Yeah.
We're not strippers, just for the record. Similar vibe. Similar industry. So yeah, I felt energized. Colleen felt triggered.
Yeah.
But I think that was more so around success.
Yeah.
Like it was a big success.
Yeah.
And you don't really know you don't really know how to handle that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And that's actually a question we've wanted to ask you is what is success to you and what does that look like? I know it's like huge.
It's huge.
Question.
Yeah.
Or could you define it or
I mean, for me, like I feel like I'm just getting started. But I think that's like a personality thing because it's like I think even what I was doing in 2014 when I was like copywriting for small businesses and like building brands for small businesses, I was like, or like, I don't know, Solomon was a client, but it was like, even then I felt like I was leading to something. And now I feel like I'm leading to something. And like this year, so we made Dream Job in 2019. We made Coach, a documentary in we can come back to that. We made that in 2019, 2020. Put that out in 2020. Then we started doing content for 2 years, which we can also talk about. But this year we're making a feature film, like a rom-com, like an indie comedy that has a romance story in it. It's not so much a rom-com. It's an indie comedy with a romantic element. I just say rom-com because it's like people do that.
They're like, I get it.
You know what I mean? And that's like, again, all I want. But I'm like, everything I've done, I've known was gonna bring me there. That's what I wanted. But then I'm like, I know the day I get on set, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I can't wait to take what we learned today and apply it on the next project or the next thing. Like that's just kind of how you have to think as like a self-employed entertainer, entrepreneur, whatever I am. You have to kind of always, like, success is like maybe something you can't have too deep of a relationship with because you can't ever just like define it in a sense, or you can't ever like get too like precious with it because you're like, I'm not here to find success, I'm here to create. So I get, in that sense, it's like
very cool.
I think if you became too attached to the idea of success, you'd feel like a failure all the time because all you do in film, as far as I can tell so far, and I'm like just grazing the surface. Is that the expression? Touching the surface? Scratching the surface. Thank you.
We'll get there.
I think it's called it's caressing the surface.
Yeah, I'm like, it's touching the surface. Like I'm just scratching the surface of like a career in film and entertainment, and I'm like, I've been at this in a sense inadvertently for 10 years. Like another 10 years, I'm gonna feel the same way. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you have to kind of
leveling up.
You're always leveling up.
Yeah. Like it's
always.
And it's so like hearing your story. I know most of your story, but hearing it in your words, it's interesting because it's like in my mind I can see the progression.
Right.
Right. It's like start here, boom, 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 boom. It's like
Yeah.
radio show. It's like doing the stand up in Montreal, radio show, comedy show, film, and each film is like bigger and more
Totally.
and bigger budget, and it's such a really cool way that I think I've never thought about looking at that, is going into each endeavor being like, and correct me if I got this wrong, that it's okay, I'm gonna take, this is not gonna be perfect, never,
Totally.
ever. Especially if you're constantly leveling up. Like if you just do the same thing, or like let's just do 10 more influencers, like, yeah.
Well, that's like what I struggle with that's what I struggle with and still struggle with in the last 2 years of doing content full time, because film budgets got nixed during COVID, and Colleen and I kind of looked at each other like, the hell are we gonna do, you know, for income? And then so many brands were just like, the hell are we gonna do? Like they have all this marketing content in the can that's no longer relevant because there's a global pandemic, no one knows how to handle it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're going to like, people are blowing up on TikTok left, right, Instagram left, right, like they're going to like micro influencers to just like create stuff for them. And we started doing that, and I'm like, there have been bits that I have done in the last 2 years that like, I swear to God, I could just do different versions of for like 5 more years and just cash in on. But I'm like, as a performer, as a creative, I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, the people are like, give us another bike video. I'm like, I've done like 6. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I do surf content now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to be in, as a person, like as a creative, you kind of have to be in like progression.
Yeah, and
I have
learning,
to be
and learning mode.
and learning.
It's like, what am I gonna take out of this? We're gonna take something. But
and I like what you said about it, like not being perfect.
Yeah.
Like that's crucial, because it's like already I know I'm gonna see the first cut of the rom-com and be like, this is so embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you have to just get comfortable with that. It's like public failure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you make mistakes as like an associate lawyer and like the partner sees. Do you know what I mean? Or you make mistakes as like a first year nurse and your like floor department head sees. Like, you make mistakes as like a comedian or like an actor or director. Like, everyone that sees your movie, like, well, hopefully if people see your shit, then you're doing okay. Do you know what I mean? But it's like you fail publicly. Yeah. And so you have to get kind of comfortable with that too. Like, there was a period where I started doing content and like people were messaging me like, oh, it's so funny that you were like did influencer and now you're like an influencer. I'm like, really? Like that's the connection you can make. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're going faster than that. Like, you know, like it's more in depth than that. Yeah. But okay, like if you need that, like totally, LOL, I'm such a hypocrite. Like, next. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's a key place where, not that concept, but where people, I think majority of people will get hung up, is that's that fear, like going back to that, almost like at the start of the conversation you were talking about, okay, I did all these things that were almost in a way avoiding doing the thing that like way back in the back of my mind, it's like, this is what you should be doing, this is what you love doing. And that's, I think, a huge piece of that, is it's like quitting the job for one. It's like so literal scary. Massive scary piece, but just knowing that it's not, I think that's a huge takeaway, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, and you have to put yourself out there at some point if you want to achieve things that are a level up from what you're doing.
You really do, and it's like it's so hard to watch like friends and like colleagues, and I know I do it myself too. Like, I just had a coach for 5 months, and after 5 months she actually said, like, I'm not going to take your money anymore because you're stuck and there's some things that you're not willing to accept or look at within yourself that I can't justify, like, continue to take your money until you do that, until you do that work and look at that and take that next step.
Was that enough for you to do it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, this is like a week ago. Oh, yeah, okay. But like, I'm not gonna work with her until I can do it myself. Yeah. Like, until I can get unstuck. And to watch like friends, like to say this, like to feel the same kind of dread you feel about your day-to-day life, or like say the same thing like over and over, like complaints, like, or just like, like, I'm okay today. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like that for sure when I was working for other people, basically, like doing jobs where I didn't feel like my full creative expression was like being exercised. And then I had a moment actually the other day where I was like bored on a call, and I was like, I felt like this every day for so long. When I wasn't like doing stand-up, or when I wasn't at an improv class, or when I wasn't like acting or creating or working on a project, like a creative project, I was like, I know I'm in a really privileged place, but it's like I also took like a huge risk, but I also couldn't stand that level of boredom. Like the level of boredom outweighed the fear. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I remember when I quit, or like had the conversation with my CEO at that time, and it wasn't like a hard quit. It was like she was very supportive of what I was doing. I remember I was with my dad at the ski hill on the island visiting. I was at home for Christmas, and I was like, I remember trying to like tell him, well, I have like $4,000 coming in because I'm like doing this, and so I have like $4,000 to get me from like, now until like the end of the month, and then like maybe this, maybe we could like pick like I had all these like, and he was just like, you got like, he was actually like probably equally as scared. I think I was like maybe picking up on some of his fear, like. The generation before, it was very much like work was laid out for you. Like you went and did what was already, like you fit yourself into an institution instead of having the potential to like create your own institution or create your own community or work or whatever it is. Now there's tons of careers like this, right? You think of every like influencer or content creator online, like all that those people are doing is building an audience. They're building a brand and community around themselves, and like their message of positivity or whatever it is. Like you can call some of these like high profile therapists influencers because every day they have like 800,000 followers, and they're putting out information every day that are influencing people to think or live a certain way. Yeah. So for me, I was like, even in December 2019, where I like really made that like step, like and I am very much a Capricorn, but I also have like a Pisces North Node, so I like very much have the like stay put, make smart choices like energy. But when I did leave that company, literally within 10 days I had an offer to like make another documentary. And that documentary coach got us to where we are now, I think, more than anything we've done. Like, despite it not being as much of a smash success as like Dream Job was, or it maybe not creating waves the same way Influencer did, like it true, like when you say like Dream Job killed us, like this thing like put us in the ground. It buried us alive. It cremated us. Like it truly tortured us before. Like it was like a brutal death. It was a very long and slow, drawn out death. No, I'm kidding. But it was so challenging on so many levels. Like we didn't have enough money. I didn't budget it properly. I had no concept of what something like this would cost to put on. I saw the opportunity. I had nothing else. I had just quit my job. I was like, we have to do it. I roped Colleen in. She was hesitant from the start. She knew there wasn't enough money behind it. I was like, we'll figure it out. We'll raise more money. I said yes to things I didn't have answers to yet. I answered questions. I just made up answers. Like I literally just like faked it. Like lied. Like I was like, we'll figure it. Like not even lied or faked it. It was like I was like, we'll figure it out. I have no other option but to figure this out.
It's like, yes, we can do that. Oh yeah, we can do that. And it's like, okay, we got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and it was like crushing. And then not just from like the travel standpoint alone, but the creative was really challenging. Like our two main characters, like they got along, and that was supposed to be kind of the gist, was that one was like helping the other to like success, but they didn't really click. They never really gelled. Yeah. And in fact, there was like a lot of tension. And Colleen and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, what do we do? Like, do we tell the story we've like gotten brands to sign off on, or do we tell the truth of what's really happening? And like we both felt as creatives, like we would rather burn the bridges with the brands, these 4 brands that had paid for this thing, than not do what we felt like we, and we made that choice. And it was really difficult because when they saw the first cut, we definitely didn't get like, oh my God, amazing feedback. Like they all kind of thought they were getting Dream Job too.
Mhm.
And they got like, you know, Call of Duty ski version, like kind of thing. Like,
they're
you
like,
know,
this isn't
what your
picturing,
brand
this
is.
isn't the narrative that we wanted to tell.
You didn't pitch this. We didn't sign off on this. We didn't approve this.
Yeah.
Like, none of it. And
do
like,
you think then the whole, like, what would they do if they really, like, and this is more of a question of like what actually happens if you deliver a product?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're our sponsor, and they're like, we don't like it, we don't want it.
I mean,
what do you do?
I mean, I got a lawyer.
Mhm.
I told her the situation. I said, look, what these brands have contributed to financially has come through the athletes. So it was like one brand paid me directly. Another brand paid the athlete, she paid me. Then the other two brands paid the athlete, she paid me. So I was like, on paper, on paper as the director, how much of this do I own creative wise?
Yeah.
And we got 100% creative, I own it. Everyone signed off on that. Then we broke it down. Okay, if there was a distribution scenario, how much would this brand own? How much would this brand own? How much would this athlete own? How much would this? Everyone signed off on it. Then my parents came in and gave me $25,000 to help me finish the film.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've told everyone, like every conference I've been at, every film festival I've been at, I crack a joke. Like, and then so we brought in additional executive producers, my mother and father, and everyone's like just laugh. And they were at Whistler Film Fest with me, and they were in the audience. And after that conference, like I had 3 like pretty big producers come up to me, and like they were like, the coolest part of that story was like that you went to your parents and they helped you finish it, and you're not ashamed. Like you just shared that. Like so much of us is so much of the industry is like trying to make it seem like you got it all going on, you know what you're doing. I'm like, no, I literally bawled my eyes out to my parents, and they were like, we can help you get this thing done. Here you go, like pay us back someday. And I was like, great, I will.
God, and how amazing,
you know,
would that have? That's like I feel like a parent's moment to.
Well, they get to see their actual
be there for you.
help. Like I was like, yeah, you guys could have paid for film school someday, or you could do this right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm literally making a film and I'm short, and I'm like, I've maxed out every credit card. I have maxed out a line of credit. I'm like paying the sound design guy, and I can't because like I would make $3,000 from like a little content piece for Arc'teryx, and I would just be like, here you go. I'm gonna get the rest of you, and I have an interact transfer limit. No, I literally only have that much money. Do you know what I mean? Like, so.
So stressful.
It was the most stressed out I have ever been in my life. Just watching the credit card, watching the interest payments come in like, oh my god, and then just being like, we're in COVID. This is in April of 2020. Yeah. No one was getting money or May of 2020. Like. And we had all these like deliverables. A whole area of unknown. They're like, we don't know if we're gonna sell skis next year. If people are, what's gonna be happening? Totally. And then Black Lives Matter happened. There was like, it was like, you're the least of our concerns, like understandably. So we were just like, okay, like I don't know what to do. Like we have a movie that we need to put out this fall. We had another deliverable we had to put out. I literally left my house in Vancouver. I had a room that I was renting in Vancouver in the city, because I was relocated. I had relocated to Vancouver for ease of travel while I was making these working on these projects and also stand up. I had moved back, and I moved back and lived in Colleen's house because she let me live there for a month for free. And we just moved in together. Like she owns a house, so I was like, I have like literally not only do I have no money, I have like negative $30,000. And she and I finished Coach, we finished Bromance, we put them out, and then I think that one, like when you asked like, did Dream Job re-energize you? Like Coach never did. Like I still have like guilt about Coach. Like I still feel a bit of shame around like kind of biting off more than we could chew. I feel a bit of I feel like guilty like roping Colleen into that. Although if she were here, she'd be like, I was right, don't worry, I was there for you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we're such a team in that sense. And then I feel guilty like hurting Lorraine and Hedvig. Like it hurt them both in different ways. Like triggered, hurt them, like made them. Neither of them felt that great about parts of it, and they thought they were gonna be like Diney and Lucy and Leah and Dream Job. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel great about some of the ways I handled relationships with the brands. Like, I didn't know what to do. You know, like, one Peak Performance was one of the brands that was like, I just like wish you'd had told us, you know. And then I was at the Free Road Tour this year shooting for Warren Miller, and I saw one of the guys in it that was one of the, and I was just, I couldn't even like bring myself to go talk to him. And usually I'm like good at like chin up, like I'm gonna handle this like head on, like I'm gonna go like neutralize this tension. And I've talked with Hedvig in circles about it. I've talked with Lorraine in circles about it. Like, I personally think that they both look real and layered and interesting and complicated. And you know, Hedvig thinks she looked like a bitch and Lorraine thinks she looked like a failure. I'm like, you're focusing on your triggers. Like, that's not at all what people saw. They saw like this really unique story unfolding in this really intense landscape of the Free World Tour, which is like not give enough credit for like how intense like these competitions are. And I have like all the respect in the world for these athletes and competitors. Like, I'm like the number one fan. Like, not number one fan. Anyway, I was shooting it for Warren Miller because I have a segment in Warren Miller this year, and we were there at the Free World Tour, and it was like I had this like great rapport with all these people. I was like seeing all these people, and I'm like, it was so interesting how the tables had kind of shifted in the last 2 years. Like, I went from being like so under the gun, like overwhelmed, like not knowing how to manage myself, like manage this team, like manage this project, like, and to being like in this position of like really competent. But there were a few things there were a few undealt with feelings for me, for sure. Like, seeing certain individuals at the tour, I was like,
you're like, oh
yeah,
I'm not ready to go there yet.
But my coach that is like got me on probation right now was like, she basically told me, if you have to stop interpreting what people aren't saying to you.
100%.
So if someone wants to come and tell you with their big girl pants on that something you did to their company negatively affected their life for X, Y, Z, okay, take that in. And someone did do that. Actually, someone sent us an email about Coach. It really negatively affected him. We took that in. We processed that. We held that for him. Like, that space for him. Like, you know. Everyone else that hasn't said anything. Do you know what I mean?
And then where are they accountable then for that?
Well, then it's on them. I can't take it on. But then there's also been this like incredible reception of this movie. So it's like, it went to Banff, which Dream Job never got into. It couldn't get into it. Dream Job couldn't get into anything to save its life, except for like this tour it kind of created itself, you know, and all these random film festivals and like freaking Slovakia, or like, can you come here or whatever, like, we love you, and like Vienna and all these places, you know what I mean? Whereas like Coach, like Banff wanted it, Whistler wanted it, Vimp wanted it, like all these like really legitimate, you know, it's still touring, and we haven't been able to release it because it's still touring. And we're like, then we're getting invited to talk on panels, and people are like talking about how unique and what we've done is, and again, you're like sitting there, you're like almost like observing your own life. You're like, what? Like, when we're on, like, Nikki, who runs the Whistler Film Fest, she was like, she had me on this panel, and she was like explaining Coach, and then she's like saying how it was like this, it broke the mold, it did this, it did that, it was doing this for women and this for represent, and I was like, because you get so mired in your own bullshit, you like forget that like there's an audience, that's what you did it for in the first place, right? You just get so deeply entrenched in the dramas of the behind the scenes, you forget about the audience, which is why you did it, you started,
and what it means for them,
and then you're
even the brands forget that too. You're like,
they do,
get over yourself,
in
a way, and it's like, look at what this did for people, look at what this did. Look at how this was interpreted by ultimately your customer base.
It's the like truth factor.
Yeah.
Which has which we keep coming back to, and it's like truth is always the bet. Like truth is always the road. It's always the choice. Like, and in this, like in the scenarios of dealing with the brands, one of them has come back and like they want to work with us again, and it's like it took a year, but there was like when they approached us again, it was like coach didn't even come up. It's like I think honestly COVID changed so much about how people were putting themselves out into the world, like of a level of authenticity and vulnerability that didn't exist before. And so all of a sudden coach felt like it was right. Like when we put it out in the fall of 2020, people were like, whoa. And then by like the fall of 2021, Banff is like, can we have it? What's this like, can we have it? Bam's like, can we have it? It's like, it was almost like a year too early. It was like a little too real for the industry. And then it was like a year like, and I don't want to say that there haven't been like real stories before, but they've been like very like poignant, like art, like hardship to overcome. Hero's journey. Whereas this was more like fucking just a struggle. You know, and like nothing was ever really resolved. It was like that was just a hard winter for both of them. And frustrating.
It's almost like as a message, it's like sometimes that's how that story ends.
And for us, it was like the biggest takeaway for me, where I got kind of like hung up on, was I was like, we do women in this industry no favors if we continue to say there has to be a perfect happy ending you come to. If we keep doing that to people, like we see that in movies, it's why we're all so fucked up. We like think everything has to have a happy ending, a resolution, a denouement. Guess what? The minute before you die, not that I've had a near-death experience yet, the minute before you die, you're gonna be like, no fuck, lights out. Like there wasn't, do you know what I mean? There isn't that moment. There isn't your like sailboat sailing into the distance while like a 90s
We've been so
Paul Simon song plays. Do you know what I mean? So fucked by Disney. So I'm like,
it's like my therapist, it was like opening call. He's like, life's a shit show. He's like, life's a shit show. It's like just every day. Remember that. He's like, and you don't get what you want. Sometimes you try really, really hard to control. You get nothing. You get mediocrity at best.
Well, I find I control things like I control like home decor. I'm like, yo, this sheet needs to fucking be here, because over here in this world are my taxes, are the receipts that are unorganized, is my truck's falling apart, is my fucking nutritionist being like cooled on the M&Ms, like all the shit over here is like just, and then I'm like, but if this sheet, you know what I mean? And I argue, my boyfriend was making fun of me this morning because I opened my cereal and Brett cereal went everywhere and I didn't clean it up because I had a call, and I'm always on his ass about it. And he was like, so you're just going to leave this? And I was like, I've got so much going on over here. He was like kind of trolling. I'm like, right. It doesn't actually matter that there's cereal on the counter ever. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't actually matter if the bed is made like first thing you do every day, make your bed. It's like that hustle culture bullshit. It's like, yo, if you don't have time to make your bed, don't make your bed. Just get to work. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to like embrace a bit more of that, but I think I use it as my like, everything's okay because my house looks nice.
Well, and
you know,
I feel like we get beat up and made to feel like pieces of shit if we're not doing all those things.
It's true.
It's like,
well, we beat ourselves up. Because of social media. Because like
society's done that to us a lot.
We see women with like all neutral homes and children that have like neutral building blocks and like a neutral elephant and neutral attire, and we're like, I don't have children, but it's like, why is my kid wearing a rubber boot on its head right now, and like their kid is in like a jumper, in like a beige jumper.
Well, and you can't even, it's like, anyway, I don't want to get started on kids, but I feel like you get judged now if you like gender identify your kid through clothing. It's like, oh, she's wearing all pink, she's wearing blue. Oh, way to go. You
can get judged. Well, that's the thing. I feel like we've gotten the more we go away from it's like, you know what you were saying earlier before we were on the chat here, like the thing that you're like attracted to in a person is like the thing that ends up ending the relationship. It's like it's the same thing like with any sort of, I don't know what there's probably some sort of like math equation for it, but it's like the further we go into being like this super inclusive society,
Yeah.
the more judgmental we get. Because now you get to be judgmental of being whether or not you're being inclusive the right way.
Yeah, that's 100%.
And it's no one can win in that environment because every step you take is a misstep according to somebody.
Yes.
You know, like literally I got a DM and I don't even want to give trolls. I don't even call them a troll, but it's like I don't even give people that like. People are always telling me you gotta stop giving trolls and haters so much airtime, and I'm like, you're probably right, but I'm also like, but these are real people, and this is a social problem.
Yeah.
Like for people to just be sending vitriol at strangers, like
you get trolled a lot.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, it's like every 20,000 followers, it's like they hit again, and then they fuck off. It's like you do a jump in growth, and then they're like, I'm unhappy, and then like, you know what I mean?
I think
like,
at one point you were saying that you're like the followers that love you then go and attack this.
Dude, I can't even like I can't even like if I were to I have like a small cult that I love, but I'm like
if you posted the trolls, it's like actually
they attack them.
Yeah.
I'm like sick of them.
This is what this person said.
So
go ahead.
I try not to like put their names out anymore. I did that a few times, and then I had someone who was actually messaging me in a second language be like, that's not what I meant at all. I've had like 30 messages from people like, I didn't mean it like that. I'm like, okay, you guys back off, retreat, abort. I'm like,
this isn't the battle. This isn't the one.
Yeah, but I don't know. They came at me because I wasn't being clear about what I do for a living online.
They're upset about that.
And I was like, wait, what? And then so I tried to answer what I do for a living, what my company does, what my business does, what we do, what we're working on, what we have coming down the pipe. And I posted it, and they responded to me again saying that wasn't like they had already unfollowed. It wasn't an adequate, it wasn't okay because I was promoting brands that are overpriced and inaccessible to begin with. And I'm making the problem worse. And I'm like, so really and truly, you cannot win.
No.
If I'm over here doing a job for Arc'teryx, and I'm over here doing a job for Carrie Cha, I'm like, you can get a ski suit from Carrie Cha for $400. You can get a ski suit from Arc'teryx for $2,400 if you want. But like, I'm doing entertainment. I'm not saying go buy Arc'teryx, go buy Carrie Cha. That's up to you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, here it is on my body in wardrobe on this shoot.
That I give back. Or
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I actually hoard. I'm a hoarder.
Yeah.
Which I should deal with. Actually, I'm doing there's a gifting thing that donates, but yeah. Can't actually let people know that I give back to the community. It's not good for the brand. So I want to be like one of those like if I like whenever I donate on like GoFundMe, like I donate like $50. I'm like anonymous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like I'm like an angel investor. It's like $20.
Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. But yeah, you truly can't win. I feel like the judgment has just become like more and more intense. The more and more people are being pressed to be more inclusive, they're also getting like judged harder. So I really and truly like you have to just you have to like let go of all that shit. Which
really
is really,
weird.
really, really hard.
Yeah, no
really weird time. It's like people have gotten, hopefully, I think, through the past year, kind of exactly what you said, a little bit more accustomed to vulnerability and being real and being themselves. So it's like you need to be real, but then at the same time, there's also this like justice, injustice, judgment, whole ether that's happening too.
Oh, for sure.
So it's a weird. Yeah, it's a weird conflicted time, I think, for North American society at least.
For sure.
Millennials.
I would even say like Canadian American.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Mexico is really.
I don't know if they're included in that, are they?
They're North American, but like they're Western. I don't know. I feel like Mexico all the time is like, yo, we are not like. Do you know what I mean? They're like, can you guys seriously fuck off? We're not doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like we're like North Americans, and they're like. Take that back. We're not holding that for you. You know. Anyway.
Don't lump us in.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap up here, like, is there anything that you do day to day that keeps the momentum moving forward? That's a big one.
Honestly, I feel like the biggest thing that I started doing in the last year that I wasn't doing before I was taking care of myself.
What does that look like?
I'm making my bed.
Yeah, totally. No, don't worry. I, with the help of my parents, I was able to buy a house. Keeping that space really nice is huge. With the help of a trainer, I started going to the gym. It's like, I mean, she's a dear friend of mine, but she lives in New York. She's an incredible trainer, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
She charges New York prices, and I'm like, all right, I know I'm committing, $400 a month or $450 a month to having her give me information on how I should move my body. So I'm gonna go do it, right? I got a nutritionist. This woman is she's a witch. She's she blew my mind. Like, my body was so unhealthy. It was so dysregulated. My nervous system was wrecked. My nervous system still needs some help. I might just have a bad nervous system for this lifetime. This incarnation, it might just be like, my nervous system might be like,
Have you tried sound baths?
we incarnate, yeah. Have you tried cold dipping? I'm like, what the, how do you think me getting in this goddamn river right now is helping my nerve? I'm like, but yeah, I think investing some money into taking care of myself, the relationship you have to have with yourself to actually take care of yourself is different than when you're like, fuck it, I'll eat whatever, I'm gonna finish this work, I'm gonna stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna just order a pizza, I'm gonna travel all over the world and stay in shitty hotels and only pay for one hotel room and Colleen has to sleep in the bed next to me. We're gonna travel around the world, we're gonna do whatever it takes, we're gonna go. That energy, letting go of that actually has created more momentum. So the less hard I go on myself, the easier momentum has become, which again is one of those inverse relationships. But going to the gym, eating differently than I ever have, without being insane, without being, I'm insane, but I'm a woman in the world, so
yes.
We are insane.
Yes.
Collectively understood.
Yes.
So accepted. And then honestly, having built a team, and having a team, it's it's not about me. It's well, Sophie needs to get paid. Well, Ryan needs to get paid. Well, Colleen needs work. Well, Colleen doesn't need my help, but she has, it's not about I need to make more money so I can get a pair of Nike Dunks. It's I just bought a pair, but it's about a whole ecosystem. It's thinking about the audience, thinking about the people on Instagram and TikTok, wanting to reach more people, that I think the taking care of myself and then just remembering it's not about me. I'm the conduit for the comedy that comes through or messaging that comes through. Sometimes I feel I was just in the right place at the right time, and people were like, you're doing so much for women and people that didn't feel I'm do you know what I mean? Me, I'm looking over my shoulder, I'm so yeah, you kind of feel okay, let's just keep going, because yeah, we're making people feel good. But does that answer your question?
It does.
Who do you think you've had the biggest, or who have you had kind of the biggest response from?
You know what? It's changed in, I would say, the last year, because prior to that, it was about the followers on Instagram split was 60-40 men.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know if I've gotten less hot or what, but or I tapped into the lesbians. The lesbians are yeah, they send me messages, we love you. I'm yes.
Yeah.
I love my lesbian community followers. So no, I would say
my followers are men and lesbians.
Yeah.
So it's really nailed those niches.
Yeah, because I'm sometimes funny, always hot.
Yeah.
I would say in the last year, a lot of the biggest response has come from women who felt they did these sports, but they never felt accepted by them.
Yeah.
These bitches are out here spending $8,000 on a bike and not feeling included. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So they're like, I bought this goddamn bike. I ride by myself 600 meters behind my boyfriend or girlfriend. I fall off bridges into bushes. I hurt myself and
get in a fight.
And I get in a fight and and there's nothing on the internet for me except for like, God bless Casey Brown hitting 90-foot jumps. Like, God bless these like Miranda Millers like racing in Italy. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're incredible athletes. Like, that's not in reach for me whatsoever. Like, they're like, thank you so much for just neutralizing how I was struggling here. First of all, learning something as an adult is hard. Second of all, fitness is triggering. Like, you know, third of all, like, having your abandonment wound activated every time you get on a fucking bicycle is not the easiest thing in the world. So I think that's been a huge response from in the last year, is women just being like,
in any sport.
Thank you.
Like, I would like to know if there's anybody who hasn't gotten in a domestic with their partner while they've tried to teach them a new sport.
Oh my god, no. It's not humanly possible. Unless you're in like a dom sub, like kind of a pre-arrangement. But I think like those people, and then I've also had like a lot of boyfriends reach out to me and be like, I never cared that she was so far behind me. Like, I just like that she's out trying.
Maybe
like,
just say that.
And like, but like, thank you, because now she's like, oh, fuck off. Like, but she's out there having fun with me. Like, we're laughing again. Like, we're just having a good time again. Like, you saved our relationship with this like bike jokes, like content stuff. And I'm like, cool. That's amazing. You know, I think like a lot of people like there, and then I would say, the other response is from, I don't know. I've just had like a few people who are like, I obviously like financially notwithstanding, because some of these sports are so freaking expensive to take up, but it's like, I've had a lot of people who like, they felt like they didn't fit in. Maybe their body doesn't look the way that the rest of these athletes' bodies look, or maybe they don't have a hand, like they don't have a, I don't know, they don't have a hand up into that sport. Like they didn't, no one in their town does it, or no one in their community does it, or they're the only person that does it. Like, and they just kind of felt alone or whatever. And like, like there's a community here of people, or like, I don't know, or just people who are like, I'm never gonna get a pro. I'm a freaking accountant, but I'm spending this money to do this stuff, pursue it. Like, I love it just as much as these pros. I can't live that life. I never will. But like, am I just gonna worship these guys forever, or is like they're gonna be someone who's like for me as well? And that's what I mean when I say like I was right time, right place. Like it wasn't like I set out with that mission. You know, I was like, I think this is funny because this is my experience. Like, you know,
it sounds like it also gives people a place to accept and embrace their vulnerability in those situations and in those sports, and make it okay. It's like, it's okay if I'm slower than you, like for the love of God. It's okay if it's going to take me a while. It's okay if I'm not comfortable. It's okay if I'm clumsy. It's okay if I'm X, Y, or Z. Because that's like, we're all on our own journey and our own path. You're not going to be epic and amazing on day 1 or even day 100. Like,
and I think it's just, I think if there's anything that like now that I have like a relationship with my comedy, like, or stuff that's been going out, or like this work, like the content particularly in the last 2 years, like, which was kind of a pivot out of necessity. Like, we're not doing film anymore, we're doing content because this COVID, like, who knows, is that people take stuff up and they just stick with it. Like, there's nothing that makes me like sadder than like bikes hanging in garages somewhere because somewhere along the line someone got like triggered or felt shitty about themselves and then like never wanted to get on it again. Do you know what I mean? It's like, life is a shit show, as we've identified. Like, you're not always gonna feel good about yourself, but like there are things that you can derive joy in this life from, and one of them is physical activity. And we do not need to make it harder for ourselves by it being about wearing the right stuff, looking the right way, feeling like you're super sick. Like, if you go out for an hour-long bike ride, great. Not everything needs to be an epic. You don't need freaking gels for everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, I'm like, and it's funny because people are like, oh, like you're actually a really sick biker. Like I know it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's not the point.
Whatever you need to think, because honest to God, I'm not. It's like, and it's again an inverse thing. Like the more I pretend like I'm shitty at biking, the more people are like, oh man, she's gonna be at freaking Dark Horse next year. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be commentating. You know what I mean? Like, but like every day in the summer, or 4 to 5 days a week in the summer, I get up, I load up Teddy, my emotional support animal, who has more anxiety than I do. So not really. It's like the blind leading the blind over here. But we go over and we ride Dusty Beaver.
Oh yeah.
It's a green trail. It takes 45 minutes or an hour, depending on how I'm feeling and whatever. And I'm like, I am good. I love that. I love biking because I just do what I like to do on the bike, which is go ride this blue-green loop with my dog in the morning. Not in the forest. I don't need to do babes bikes, frickin' 400 of us encouraging each other to ride down a frickin' rock wall. No, I don't need that. I'm like, I like quiet. I like the dog. I like a little workout. I don't want to frickin' feel like I'm gonna go over the bars. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then every once in a while I'll go over to Boulder and I'll like, you know. And I was thinking about this because I feel like you like, there's this pressure always to like get sicker. And so at Boulder, like I feel confident now on logging leftovers. I've broken my ribs on it. I've hurt my leg on it. I've gone to the hospital after it once, at least twice, maybe. Now I can ride logging leftovers top to bottom. It's a blue on Boulder. I'm like, I'm good. Last year, it's like, I'm in the truck, everyone in the truck wants to go to Rooster. Next thing I'm at the top of Rooster. I'm like, I didn't really want to be at the top of Rooster. Next thing you know, I'm getting talked into Boondocker. I'm walking my bike down Boondocker. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, or I'm riding it so scared. I'm like, I'm 34 years old. I do not need to be scared on a Tuesday night.
No. Yeah.
Like, I don't need to, unless I'm at you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just like...
Yeah, and like, don't talk me into anything. I don't want to be talked into shit. I don't want to get peer pressured into it. Like, just...
And I also don't want you to make me feel bad because I want to ride logging leftovers for the rest of my goddamn life.
Exactly.
That's
Do you think that so, like, Rebel's so unique in that it's extreme?
Sure.
And there's a lot of extreme people here.
But
do you think that
everywhere.
Maybe it is everywhere. And they're also, even in like their own sports, right?
For
like
sure.
There's like road biking and places where it's
for sure.
intense.
For sure.
Do you think that there's more real judgment that comes out of some of the people in the community around sport, or do you think it's more perceived judgment? Like, what percentage do you think is us? Because there's obviously a percentage there. And what percentage do you think is actually like, yeah, I'm judging you. I'm judging you on the ski hill with what you're wearing. I'm judging you over here on your bike with what you're doing. Judging you, like, that's a real thing. Do you think
I think a lot of it is like self judgment. Like, we create stories about what people are thinking about us all the time. I ski with Christina Lusenberger on her like rest days. I joke, but like, she's so happy to like just go to a slack country lap with me because it's like, otherwise she's like researching and doing a first descent. It's like, she's happy to just go chat about Botox with me for an afternoon, like convince me not to get it. And, you know, she feels very strongly. I feel sort of differently. But like, she's happy to do that. She's not like, oh, Katie's slower. You know what I mean? And I'm also like, I'm not gonna be over here like gas myself up like, oh, I kept up with Lucy. It's like, no, Lucy's going at her, like, you know, she like. So if I was like felt judged, it's because I was creating that narrative, right? And she's probably the best skier in the world. Like, I think so. Like, she's incredible. So it's the same thing in biking. I bike with Casey. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's not like...
Casey doesn't give a shit.
She doesn't give a shit. Like, if she wants to hit the jump, she goes hit the jump. My boyfriend's gonna chase her. He's gonna be like, oh fuck, Jesus. You know, maybe I won't chase her next time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna go around. No one gives a shit. Like, so I think there's actually been something really liberating for me in starting to put this content out, because I think there was a period of time, especially when I was younger, where I did feel more like I had to keep up, or like feel like I was really cool, but I think it had to do more with like, or sorry, I should say, keeping up made me cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think in this town it has to do more with social capital. Like, social capital in this town was like sharing experiences in the mountains or on bikes or in hiking or whatever it was. Like, that was how you made friends. That was how you found your position in town. You know, it was like when I moved here in 2010, the like popular kids were like the pro skiers from Alberta that had moved here to like be the first people that moved here at the new resort, you know. Now 10 years later, it's like one of those people is a farmer. Chris Rubens is a farmer. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has found new niches for, like, new spaces for themselves, and everyone's kind of let go of that. I feel. I think
that just comes also with maturity.
Maturity,
like,
yeah, probably when
I don't have the energy to deal with this thing.
probably when that microcostic, you know, social status scenario was happening, the like 35-year-olds were like, oh god, the new, like, these people that have moved to town, like, think they're super cool. Like, no one gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
all, like, okay.
and then maybe now the like 20-somethings that have moved here like think it's really important whether or not they're sick at stuff. And I think it has to do more with like social connection than judgment. And I think humans are social creatures. We want to fit into a community. We want to fit into something. In this town, primarily that community is around extreme sports. Therefore, your social currency is to be able to keep up and do those sports so you can make friends. So I think it had to do more with like pack mentality than anything. It has to do more with pack mentality. Like, you can't be in the back of the pack or you're gonna get left behind. It's like that caveman fear that you're gonna die because you're in the back of the pack. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think it's less about judgment and more about like our own like
hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, truly. So I feel excited that like the jokes I've done have like relieved people of that pressure.
Yeah.
In a sense. You know?
Oh, I think they have in a huge way. Yeah.
Because that was my experience. Totally.
Like, it's normalized an average person's experience.
Totally.
Not to take
And here you guys were, stress your podcast wouldn't connect with my brand.
So you could say you normalize it.
Yeah. So would you say you normalize average? Would you go so far to say, yeah?
Should we ask her the question?
Okay. You want to close it down?
Let's close it down.
Okay. Before we do that, let's do what is coming up for you? Like, you could do next year, next 5 years. What is in store?
I can't even think 5 years ahead. I can think 6 months. I'm trying to do 6 months right now.
COVID has taught us anything.
Can you tell us more about the rom-com? Or any other projects you're excited about?
Yeah, for sure. So the next 6 months, very much focusing on a big thing for us as a team is not taking on so much that we get burnt out before big projects. Like, so kind of managing the slate over the spring and summer. We're going to work with a few brands to create some more content. We're launching a YouTube series where I just wanted to like dive in more so just, it's like hard work acting all the time, like a character or different characters. It's like, this is easy, like sitting around and just bullshitting, talking about myself for like 3 hours. It comes like naturally. So I'm like, I just want to be more myself and like kind of like take people on journeys that they're getting from the content, but like a little bit more closer to me. And then I wanted to bring in, like, to me, I'm like, there we create a space for longer form content, and bringing people along the journey of like KBTV and like how it's grown and like what we're doing next and like then what's gonna happen. Like, talk about a hero's journey. Like, we get me to the Vanity Fair party at the Oscars in a year or two. Like, there you go. We got there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care how we got there, but we got there. You know what I mean? So it's like, we just wanted to start exploring YouTube as like a new avenue and bringing like the outdoor industry into like, just kind of approaching it differently. Like, it's your part-time hobby, it's your whatever it is, your escape. And so trying not to take on too much. Making a feature film is so much freaking work. We started writing this screenplay in 2021. What year are we in? 2022. Yeah. I got home from Micah heli-skiing on a vocal shoot, which is one of our big clients. We are partners. I wrote the first draft in 2 weeks. It was terrible. The producers hired a professional writer to work with me on it, which I decided not to take as offense to.
I thought you were saying, which I decided not to use.
Yeah,
so
no.
They're gone.
They were like, their first point of feedback was, would you like some help? I was like, abso-fucking-lutely. I did 1 semester. I did not do all 4 of my diploma. So there is going to be some holes in this screenplay for sure. Primarily indenting and just using the Final Draft software, period, which is its own beast. You have to be like a coder to work this software. Anyway, it's so hard. So Andrew Ladd, who co-wrote it with me, he and I have been working on this thing since March 2021. I would say we finalized the screenplay like a week ago. So that's like a year just to get the screenplay done. I mean, it was seeing the light of day like 4 months ago, but we like killed a crucial character like 2 months ago. Do you know what I mean? We just nixed her. Bye, Jack, you're gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, which changed the whole structure. Anyway, I'm talking too many details. This is a problem I have. But so he and I finished the screenplay, and then we started, like, we brought on a casting director, we have a line producer, we have a DP, like, this team is forming around it now, and we just want to make sure that we have enough space and time as for ourselves as a team. Like, everyone on my team is going to have a role on the film. That shoots in Tahoe in the fall, which was like a 3-time pivot. Like, it's shooting in Revelstoke. No, it's shooting in Tahoe. No, it's shooting in Revelstoke. No, it's shooting in Tahoe. Like, now it's in Tahoe. We're going down there. We got the visas. Don't worry. Totally legal this time. Every other time, if you're tracking, yes, has been illegal. This time it won't be. But, yeah, I'm just, like, really excited to see how, like, when the casting starts, I think that's when it's going to be like, oh, fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I mentioned Dave Merhej, but he's on tour with Ivan Decker. He's one of the guys, the Comedy Fest guys. He's now on a show called Rami. I have, like, already tapped him, like, please work on this movie. He's keen. Like, I'm just, like, all these elements of my, like, parts of my life, like, coming together. Like, pro skiers are new cameos in it. It's it's an indie comedy about the ski industry. It's about 3 girls in the ski industry, or they're not in the ski industry to start. They're like nobodies. And it's a 72-hour movie, kind of like Superbad or whatever. Like, it all happens within 72 hours.
That's cool. Yeah.
There's like a super famous like Candide Tovex, you know, meets like Rory Bushfield kind of character. I shouldn't give away the references actually, because then people will be like, oh fuck, this is about me. But I've like based all the characters in the movie off of like myriad like 6 to 7 people, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it like happens over the course of this weekend where these girls in the opening scene, I mean, I won't give it too much away, but they get evicted, and then it's a ski town. They get evicted, big deal. And then sort of, I hate to use the term hilarity ensues, but I would say more like chaos ensues. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a chaotic 72 hours for them. There's sex, drugs, house music, not so much rock and roll. No, I'm kidding. I'm like, can the soundtrack be all AC/DC? Because my defining movies growing up were Fubar 1 and Fubar 2. And I got to work with Dave Lawrence the other day, Terry Cahill. Like,
they were here, like, skiing.
We shot a thing with him.
Okay,
so
there we go. Yeah.
It was just, it was very, like, I kept being like, please note, like, yes, we're doing a bit, but also, like, I put you on every pitch deck I've ever done. You're on every pitch deck I've ever done. It's just a picture of your face. I'm like, it's like Girls on HBO meets Old School meets Bridesmaids meets Fubar. Everything meets Fubar in the end. So, So yeah, that'll take 25 odd days to shoot, and then editing will happen in LA after that.
Wow.
So I'll be in the US, in and out of the US for like at least 6 months, and then to get just that project done, and then I don't know what'll happen after that. Like, you know, I will not have time from November, realistically mid-October until the end of January to do anything other than that project. So looking at like leisure camp this year that we put on, or like what we do with vocal, or like what we do with some of these winter brands, like I don't know if we'll have time next year. I don't know if we'll have space for it next year. Like, for me, it's not even that. It's like I'll feel guilty we can't fulfill the contracts in the same way that we fulfilled them in past years or whatever. But that's happening, and then I don't know, freeze my eggs at some point. Keep trying to make this shit happen, you know. Anyway.
Okay. Well, let's do our closing question, which is, what is the most average thing about you?
My trailer. 100% my trailer. Although it is the bougiest fucking trailer ever. I live in a trailer. I live in a double wide on 0.11 acres. I do own it though, and I own the land, so it's like a little bit not average. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in Revelstoke, owning a mobile home is like the equivalent of owning like $1 million house in like Saskatchewan. Although then you live in Saskatchewan, so I don't know. No shade to Saskatchewan, like big love. But yeah, no, I live in a trailer. That's probably the most average thing about me. What else is average? I mean, I feel like I'm very just average looking. Like I like brown hair, like mid height, mid size, like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm like a 36D. Like it's just like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's very, physically, I feel pretty average most of the time. I mean, I can like push it on like a makeup day, you know, to like an 8. I can go like 8.
Put a pump on.
You know what I mean? Mostly I'm just like cruising around at the 7. But it's like, as you say, like with, I used to do a bit about like not wanting to be a 10, because then you have no free time, because everyone just wants to have sex with you. I'm like, but if you're a 7, I'm like, I'll take a cool 7 in my free time, thank you. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what is average anymore, because without, you know, getting canceled, because your average is always somebody else's dream.
It's true.
And
the amount of people would be like, oh, you own a home? That's not average.
Yeah, and that's like mega triggering for me to even say. And also the concept of poverty and trailers and judgment around them has also changed as inflation increases and people become more and more bereft, doing what used to be like, you know, high paying good jobs. So, you know, I say both of those things with a grain of salt. I obviously have a highly functional body and a roof over my head. Actually, I say them in jest. Like I say, you know, average those things averagely and also with a grain of salt. But so I don't know. I think, quite frankly, more than anything, like when I think of the term, when I heard the name of your guys' podcast, like normalizing average, I was more like, oh fuck, all this means, this is awesome. All this means really to me is take the fucking pressure off. You know, meet yourself where you are. Accept yourself where you are, which I could work on. You know, like meet yourself where you're at. Have people in your life meet you where they're at. Like meet people where they're at. Like normalize just enough being enough. Which is truly something I have to work on, because I very much have the like hoarder energy. Like get it all, soak this, I'm leaving this earth kicking and screaming like, yay, fucking get down to the casino one more time. You know what I mean? Like,
that's exactly it. You nailed it though.
So I really feel like I do have that element of me. Do you know what I mean? Like I love a cheeky red wine night. I love like a whoops, I'm hungover. Like I love a like oopsies, I spent too much on this, or I gotta get back to the gym. Like just life. I don't know. Just embrace your fucking basic ass life. You know what I mean? It's like normalizing average is also just like be basic and love yourself.
Just be human. You're human.
So I do try to do that.
You got it, girl.
A bit.
Okay. Katie, where can people find you, follow you, get in touch with you if you want them to get in touch with you?
My email address, if you have something that needs to be written in essay form,
The fax number is
yeah.
That was really funny.
Is Lord_Mufasa@hotmail.com. My first ever email address is where I take. Oh, no, I'm kidding. That was my first email address. Lord_Mufasa@hotmail.com.
Yeah.
Whenever anyone's like,
Oh,
LOL,
yeah,
what was your
working on
first
mine.
email address?
Yeah.
And they're like, Candy Sugar Girl.
Basically.
And then they're like, what was yours? I'm like, Lord_Mufasa. Not sure what direction I was taking with that, but that's what it was.
It's definitely gonna be at Hotmail.
It was
sure.
at Hotmail.
RH
Mine was too,
bracket.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, but 604 3 no, Katie Burrell TV on Instagram and TikTok. I don't know how to access the DMs on TikTok, so if you're trying to get a hold of me, hit me up on Instagram. I am 34.
Okay.
I'm still making my way over on TikTok. Like, you know, it's
Doesn't come as naturally.
moving with a
as
walker over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, hit me up on Instagram.
Katie Burrell TV and katieburrelltv.com.
And the website is katieburrelltv.com if you want to get involved with any of our merch,
Yeah.
or you want to send an inquiry about working together. There's an inquiry form there. Yeah,
It's not great.
sometimes funny, DMs always open.
Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Katie.
you guys
This
for
is
having
huge.
me.
Yeah,
This
thanks.
has been awesome.
You didn't even have to look at your clipboards.
I know, we had notes and clips.
You
A
actually-
couple of naturals, and you only had to stifle one yawn. Good job.
I know you're looking right at me.
I was
said
like-
it too. And I was
Well,
just
whenever
like,
this happens, whenever people yawn, like it's like you can yawn for many reasons.
Yeah.
You're not always yawning because you're bored.
No.
Right? So every once in a while, I just want to be like, let her buck,
Yeah,
let her
do
fly,
it.
Is
hon.
it like a lack of oxygen? Like
It can be for
It's
sure.
like
Okay,
so many
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. Watch us all like slowly pass out in here, but
Yeah. Yeah.
lack of oxygen because I'm taking it up all if I'm fucking talking about stuff. You're like,
So
bitch, let the rest of us breathe.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Katie.
Of course.
We love you.
Love you guys.
Thank you to anybody who's tuning in to Normalizing Average. That's your podcast.